Hi and welcome to your very first section in this course. In this section, we're simply going to be introducing Python and making our very first app. In this introduction to Python, we're going to be going over installing Python and using IDLE, which is a development environment that comes with Python. We're going to look at what variables, strings and integers are, and strings and integers are just types of data the computer can hold. We're going to be looking at methods and parameters, and then we're going to be going into creating our first app. The app is going to be called Our Age in Seconds. And this is going to be a simple program that takes our age in years and then gives it back to us in seconds. As you can already imagine, this is simply a multiplication. Multiply your years by a few numbers and you get it back in seconds. But it's going to be used to get us acquainted with some methods, some things that Python can do. Such methods are going to be the str method, used to convert a number to a string, and the int method, which does the opposite and converts a string to a number. The print and format methods, which are used to work with strings and print them out to the user so the user can see them, and the input method, which is used to get something back from the user, ask them a question. We're also going to be looking at some flow in the if, elif, and else keywords. And these are used to tell the program to do something or something else if a certain condition is met. The program is going to look something like this. We first ask the user to enter their age, they'll type it in, and then we'll give them back their age in seconds. Of course, there'll be options to extend this program further with knowledge that we'll be giving you in this section. But that's pretty much it. So let's get started, and I'll see you in the next video. So in this video, we're going to be installing Python. In order to install Python, simply go to www.python.org and then you'll be met with this page. If you go into the download section, you'll see here a download for, and in my case, Mac OS X. If you're using a Windows computer, you'll see Windows. We want to download Python 3.4.3. Another option, if you don't see the correct platform here, is for you to go into Windows, Mac OS X, or other platforms. And here you'll have all the other platforms that you can download Python for. Python is available in nearly all platforms that you could think of. Once you've downloaded and installed Python like any other application, move on to the next video where we're going to be looking at IDLE. I'll see you there. Hi and welcome back. So in this video we're going to be looking at IDLE. Just a quick overview as to what it can do and what it's used for. And IDLE, also known as the Python shell, is what's called an interactive development environment. So this means that whenever you write a line of Python code, it will instantly be evaluated and give you the answer. So for example, if we type 5 plus 5, it will instantly give us back 10, because it just evaluates that for you. So 5 is a number, and it's not a number that has a decimal point after it. So it's just a 5. This is known as an integer, a whole number. And Python has an integer as a type. This means that for Python, the number 5 and the number 5.0, for example, are completely different numbers. And they are in fact different types. Similarly, this is also a completely different type and a completely different thing in general. This is known as a string. And a string is simply a collection of characters and numbers and symbols that are enclosed between quotation marks. Python treats this literally, so it will not do anything. If we say 5 plus 5, it will simply give us back 5 plus 5 because it assumes that we simply want the collection of numbers and symbols that we've given it. If we do 5 plus 5, notice how some of it is in quotations and the other is as a number, the plus being outside the quotations and the 5 being a number or an integer. This gives us an error because it doesn't know what to do with the string and the number added together. However, if you do 5 plus 5, notice that spaces doesn't matter in Python. Then it gives you 55 because it simply joins them two together. So these are a couple of things that you can do in IDLE, and this was also a very quick introduction to what integers and strings are. In the very next video, we might look at some variables. So I'll see you there. Hi and welcome back. So in this video, we're going to look at variables. And variables in Python are extremely simple. A variable, if you've ever done any algebra in school, you know is simply an unknown in algebra. In Python, they have a slightly different meaning. In Python, they are in fact usually a known, and you can store a value in a variable. Just like in algebra, x could be equal to 5. Here, we can say that x is equal to 5. And notice how that doesn't do anything. But then, if we say x, it'll give us back the value 5 because it knows that the value 5 is stored with the name x. So you can think of x as a name for a value. Indeed, x contains the value 5. We can of course rewrite x or overwrite x to have a different value, for example, the string 5. And then when we print x, we type x, we get the string 5 back. Notice how, interestingly, we typed the string using double quotation marks, but Python gave us it back with single quotation marks. And in Python, it does not matter which one of the two you use. You can use either single or double quotation marks, whatever is easier for you to use. Of course, we can also do x equals 10, y equals 10, and then we can do x plus y, and that will give us 20. We can do x plus 10, that will give us 20. Same thing. So we can use variables interchangeably for the values that they contain. And we can do this throughout Python. Anywhere that we encounter a value, we can use a variable instead, if that variable contains the same value. So this was a very quick introduction to variables, and now we're going to move on into looking at some methods. So I'll see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at printing things out to the screen. Obviously not to a printer, just yet at least, but instead to the screen. In order to print something out to the screen, we have to use the print command. This is known as a method. So simply type print and then a pair of opening and closing brackets. In Python, and indeed in many other programming languages, these opening and closing brackets enclose something we want to give to this method. In this case, the content or the data that we want to give to the print method is whatever it is that we want to print. That kind of makes sense. So inside these opening and closing brackets will go whatever we want to print. This can be numbers or it can be strings. If I print the number 5, I simply get 5 back. This is very similar to simply typing 5. However, you must remember that this is an interactive Python environment. Normally, when you are programming and you're making your own application, simply typing the value 5 will not get you the value 5 printed out. This only happens in this interactive Python shell. Normally, if you wanted something to come out to the user and be visible by them, you'd have to use the print command or method. We can also print a string. So remember to use the quotation marks at both sides, and remember that it doesn't matter if you use single or double quotation marks. But notice that there is a slight difference between printing something out and simply typing the string out in this interactive shell. Remember that normally when you're writing a Python program, simply writing the string will not get you any data back, as I've mentioned before. Only printing will show something to the user. So indeed when we print, we don't have single quotation marks around the string, whereas when we simply type the string, we do. This is because the Python interactive shell, this IDLE program, when we give it this, it gives us back the value of the string. So what is the string? And the string is hello world with the quotation marks. When we print the string out, what it does is it tells us something, and what it tells us is hello world, but it is not giving us the value of the string. It is simply printing the string out to the screen. So there's a minor difference there that you won't have to worry much about it. So don't worry about it for now, and it'll be okay. The other two methods that we're going to look at in this video are the str and the int method. And these are very easy to understand. Say if we have a variable x which has the value 5, then x contains 5, but of course if we want to say I am 5, remember that we could join up strings together like this, but if we say I am plus x, which we want to say I am 5, really gives us an error, because one of them is a number and the other is a string. So what we can do is treat x as a string. And we do that with this str method. The str converts a number to a string. And then inside the brackets goes whatever it is that we want to convert, so in this case, x. And now it will be able to join both strings together to give us back I am 5. However, do notice that x is still not a string. It was only a string here. X is still a number for all other lines of our program. And similarly, if you have x being equal to 50, then x contains this string 50, as you can see, with the double quotation marks. But if we type int x, notice how this does not contain the quotation marks, because indeed x is being treated as a number. So x plus 10 is an error. Int x plus 10 gives us 60, because it treats x temporarily as the number 50 as opposed to the string 50. So this was a very quick intro to these three methods, and in the future we're going to be looking at the format method as well, and then some logic flow keywords as well. So I'll see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to be looking at the format method. But first, let's try to create the string I am 5 years old without using the 5 as part of the string, i.e. using a variable instead. The first thing we'd have to do is create an age variable which holds the value 5, or indeed any other value, and then say I am plus str age plus years old. And what this would do is get the I am string, remember the space at the end, just to create the space necessary for the age, and then would append the age, and then it would append years old. And this would give you I am 5 years old. But it's a bit of a pain to write this. You have to close the string, then add again, and then put str, don't forget about that. So it's a bit of a hassle to have to do that. So instead what we can do is say I am, and then opening and closing curly brace, years old. And now this opening and closing curly brace is a placeholder for something else, and this something else can be the age. And what we do is we format the string to replace these with the age. And the way we do that is we type out our string and then dot format. And what this format method is going to do is it's going to replace whatever is inside the brackets for these two elements here. So what we have to give this format method is the age. And then that gives us I am 5 years old, which is exactly what we wanted. So what other uses does this format method have? What happens if I say I am 5 years and months old? Then we'd format and say age, and then we'd put a comma and say 7, for example, the number 7. And this age will go to the first set of curly braces, and the 7, which is after the comma, will go to the second set of curly braces. And if we had more sets of curly braces, then we would have more commas, and the next thing would get swapped over. Okay, so one last thing that we can do with this format method that is the coolest thing I find about this format is that we can say I am, and then instead of doing opening and closing curly brace by themselves, we can type in a name. So for example, age. Years old. Are you age years old too? So notice how these are the same and they have age inside them. This age is the name of the variable. Sorry, not the name of the variable, forget that. This is the name of the placeholder. So then we'd say format, and then we'd say age, which is the name of the placeholder, equals 5, which is our age, or indeed age, which is our age variable. And now I understand this sounds a bit strange, and I've done it on purpose so that you understand that Python is A, not intelligent, and B, works in very specific ways. The first age is the name of whatever it is we're giving the format method. This format method, if we give it this age, expects a placeholder to have age inside it, and then it will replace this value for the placeholder called age. So really this age and this age are completely different. This age is not a variable. It's just the name of the placeholder. This age is the variable that we created up here. And these are some uses of the format method. It has many more, and you can look that up in the Python reference. And it is a really cool thing, and it has a lot of different things you can do with it. In the very next video, we'll be looking at the input method, and then we'll proceed into the if, elif, and else. So I'll see you in the next video. Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video, we're going to look at the input method, and this is brilliant because it lets us get a value from the user. So it lets us ask the user a question and get a value back. And the way it works is just another method. The name is input, and then it has the opening and closing bracket as all other methods do, and inside the brackets we put what we want to ask the user for. So, for example, enter your age as a string. This is what we want to ask the user, and notice how I left a space at the end, because the user is going to start typing immediately after the space, so having a space before the colon makes it a bit prettier. So we type that, and then notice how there's a blinking cursor that lets us know that we are expected to type something. And notice how then this input method gives us back a string, as denoted by the single quotation marks. So now we know that this input method will ask the user a question, let them type something, and give us back a string. This string can be put into a variable. Easy enough. User underscore age is the name of my variable. Remember, you can use underscores in variable names. Equals input, enter your age. Then I'll enter my age, and notice that nothing is returned in this case, because instead of giving it back to us, the developer, it's put it inside user age. That now contains the age that I put in. Do notice that I put in essentially a number. I didn't put quotation marks around it, but it still came back as a string. So if we wanted to use this age for something, we are going to have to convert it to a number by using the int method. Okay, so this is easy enough. I think you guys are ready to understand this in a very quick pace. So now we can move on and calculate the number of seconds that this person that is 50 years old has lived for. So what we'll do is int user age multiply by 365, which is the number of days in a year, multiply by 24, which is the number of hours in a day, multiply by 60, the number of minutes, multiply by 60 again, which is the number of seconds. And this gives us this very large number, 1,576,800,000 seconds if you're American, or 1,576 million if you are British. At least I think that's the way it goes. Don't quote me on that. So this is how we would calculate the number of seconds. And indeed, we can copy this and make sure that we store the value inside a variable called seconds. So now seconds contains this number, and we can tell the user that they've lived for this number of seconds. How are we going to do that? Print, you have lived for seconds, format seconds. So we get this string, we format it with the variable seconds, replacing it onto there, and we print all of that. And then it tells us that we have lived for a very large number of seconds. And that could be our program. Easy enough to create. However, the user still has to, well, there is really no user. The developer still has to create the program before being able to run it. So really what we should do is do something that will allow the user to simply execute our program without having to type any code themselves. So that's what's going to be coming in the very next video. So I'll see you there.